Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are doing a comparison of the Asics Novablast 3 and the Asics Novablast 4. Let's dive in. The Asics Novablast 3 costs £135 or $140. It weighs 237 grams or 8.4 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The Asics Novablast 4 costs £135 or $140. It weighs 256 grams or 9 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The Asics Novablast 3 is a daily running shoe designed to combine plenty of cushioning and comfort with a versatile ride. Version 3 saw FF Blast Plus midsole foam added to lower the weight and improve responsiveness. It also features a thin tongue wing construction to improve the fit, a more supportive heel design, a jacket mesh upper for breathability, and an A-Heart outsole for improved durability. The Novablast 4 sees some big changes from the previous version. The biggest of those is the new FF Blast Eco Plus foam that aims to provide a softer ride with more energy return when you want to pick up the pace. There's also an updated shoe geometry that combines the trampoline-inspired midsole with a higher stack of midsole foam. There's an engineered woven mesh upper that offers a plush fit as well as plenty of breathability and flexibility, as well as a gusseted tongue to prevent slip. And there's a healthy covering of A-Heart outsole rubber across the shoe to improve grip and durability.
So a quick word on fit then. If I'm really honest, I've got both the shoes on right now. I don't feel there's too much of a difference here between the Novablast 3 and the Novablast 4. They've largely stuck with pretty much the same fit. Perhaps there's a little bit more clearance across the top of the toe box in terms of the uppers and that shaping, but overall in terms of the hold in the heel, midfoot lockdown, the way the shoe feels on the foot, these two fit-wise I think are pretty much bang on. So whatever you went with in the Novablast 3, I would go with the Novablast 4. If you haven't ever worn a Novablast, then I would still recommend going true to size in these shoes, which is what I did. I ran in the UK 8.5, which is my regular running shoe size, and they fit true to size. Nice and roomy in the toe box. If anything, they feel a little bit big and long. If you really don't like that, you want a dialed in fit, you might be able to squeeze the half a size down and get them a bit more snug, but my recommendation would be to go true to size.
Okay, so the fit for me in these two shoes, I'm a size 8, these are both size 8s in the UK. I've had no issue with either of these shoes. I would stay to my size in both of them, but what I would say is that the Novablast 3 is a little bit, the upper, it's quite a narrow shoe, and the upper is quite restrictive. So if you have wider feet, you might find that the Novablast 3 is a little bit narrow and not as comfortable as you would like. The upper just doesn't really give a lot of space to move around as well. So that's the only thing I would say about it, but I would stay to my size in this shoe. Other than that, there's lots of padding around the upper. The tongue is fairly minimal, so there's not a lot of padding around that, but I would stick to my size in that shoe. The Asics Novablast 4, it's slightly longer in the toe box, and the upper has a little bit more give in it. So if you do have wider feet, then you're probably going to get on better with the Novablast 4 than the Novablast 3. But I would stay to my size in this shoe as well.
So for my run test then, I've now done around 30 miles in the Novablast 4, and I've clocked more miles by far in the Gen 3 Novablast since they launched last year. Now I've mixed up the pace in both shoes from slow and easy to marathon pace and beyond. I've covered different terrain including roads and off-road river paths in both shoes as well, my usual testing ground basically. I also did a side-by-side mile to compare these two shoes, one on each foot, and here is what I found. So then I've just done a side-by-side mile. I've got the Novablast 4 on my left foot, I've got the Novablast 3 on my right foot. One of the big things you notice straight away is that extra kind of flaring in the heel and in the forefoot of the midsole. There is a much bigger volume of foam underfoot and extends out wider, so what was already a hulking great shoe feels bigger than Novablast 3. So if you found the Novablast 3 too much shoe, you're probably going to find this one even worse. In terms of weight, I don't really find there's much of a difference. On the run, on the move, they feel pretty much the same. In terms of the cradling, there's perhaps a little more cradling because of that wide footbed and that wide base that you've got, the wider platform on the Asics Novablast 4 than you've got on the 3. And then in terms of the overall ride, there's not a huge amount to choose here, I don't think, but what I do notice is that the Novablast 4 has a slightly firmer tuning. It makes the Novablast 4 just that little bit snappier for me than the Novablast 3. The combination of the rock ring, the new midsole geometry, and I think a slightly firmer tuned foam here with this Eco Blast Plus foam, it makes it just a bit more responsive. There's marginally more immediacy you get than you do on the Novablast 3, which I've always found a little bit soggy and a little bit sluggish at pretty much all my paces. I didn't get any of the bounce that some people report, and so I've never really been a fan of the Novablast, but in the 4s I think you get a bit more, and it's made the Novablast a little bit more of a shoe that I could run in across a range of paces. They're still, for me, both of these shoes definitely aimed at lower and slower than faster. I can't really run too fast in them for too long. I just find that I'm having to work a bit too hard. There's too much shoe on the foot. I would rather pick up something, like a Triumph 21 or a Saucony Ride 17, or your other shoes that feel a little bit less shoe on the foot. I think even the Cloud Eclipse does a better job. But if we're talking about the difference between these two shoes, I do think that Novablast 4 is a bit of a step on from the 3 in terms of that response and that ride, and that kind of the faster clip through that you get rather than the sinking and the sagging. That's not to say they've thrown out the cushion protection, so if you liked that big cushion protection you got from the 3, you're still going to get that here in spades. This is still a soft shoe. You still land and sort of sink in and wait for it to come back, but just maybe not as much as you did with the Novablast 3. Now, despite the change to the uppers, which are supposed to be more stretchy, and that new neoprene tongue, overall the way that my foot is held and feels in the shoe, the step-in comfort on these, it's pretty close. There's not too much to choose. Marginally more comfortable in the Novablast 4, I would say. So when it comes to grip and durability, they've got pretty much the same outsole rubber pattern here, so I wouldn't have that as a deciding factor but choosing between these two shoes. Both good durability and good grip.
Okay, so the run test in these two shoes. The Novablast 3, I've never been a fan of. The history of the Novablast series, the first one I really liked. It was a surprisingly bouncy shoe, had a lot of energy return in it. It was nice and soft as well, but it was a little bit unstable, a little bit wobbly, and in the later versions Asics fixed that slightly by making the shoe more stable, giving a wider base to it, but in the 3 it sort of lost the magic of the first one, and to a lesser extent the second one, and just found a bit dull to me. The FF Blast Plus midsole foam just didn't seem to deliver a lot for me, and even though it's a cushion shoe, it just didn't offer anything that I'd want from a cushion shoe. So it didn't feel particularly soft, it didn't feel particularly bouncy, it just felt like a solid workhorse daily shoe, which is not what I want from the Novablast range. I kind of want it to be a bouncier shoe. I want it to be more fun to run in. I always class the Novablast as a fun shoe, and the Novablast 3 just didn't do that for me. It was just a little bit of a nothingy shoe, and as a result, I just, after I tested it, I never really picked it up again, just because I didn't find it to be that enjoyable a shoe. The Novablast 4 has come out, and it does have this new updated FS Blast Plus midsole foam, which has this some eco design elements in it, and it is a bit more foam in there. There's definitely a bigger heel section on it. There's a little bit more of a pronounced rocker to the shoe, and it does feel like a different ride. It feels like the foam is a little bit more compressive and energy returning than the Novablast 3. It feels a little bit livelier, also feels a little bit more responsive as well, like you can really pick up the pace a little bit more in this shoe than you could in the Novablast 3. The other thing as well is this new geometry of the shoe, the midsole foam, just feels like it's rolling you forward a little bit more than in the Novablast 3. So some big improvements for me in the Novablast 4. It just feels like the shoe is a lot more versatile than the 3 now. I wouldn't say it's the most versatile shoe in the world. It's not like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, but there's a lot more to this shoe now, and I think it's a big improvement on the Novablast 3, which just didn't really do a lot for me. Other than that, I would say I've done interval sessions in this shoe, I've done a park run in this shoe, and I've done longer runs in this shoe. When I did the interval sessions on track, it just felt like it's not a shoe that's designed for high level performance, but if you were just to buy one shoe and you did want to do track and stuff in it, it felt fine for that. It felt like I could pick up the pace nicely. It felt like it could keep up with me as I was trying to run faster, and I didn't have the wrong pair of shoes on. Novablast 3, if I went out to run fast in this shoe, it would feel like I had the wrong pair of shoes on. It just doesn't feel like a shoe that has any performance benefits in it. It's just a solid workhorse shoe. For longer runs as well, Novablast 3 just feels a bit dull. Just if I did like a half marathon in this shoe, I would know about it. Novablast 4, it does feel like it's a shoe now designed to really give you cushioning and help you along with those longer sessions. So whether that's half marathon, marathon training, that sort of thing, I think it would be a good shoe for that now. And it's definitely noticeable that this is a shoe that can do more than the Novablast 3. Other thing I would say as well is the outsole on these shoes. There's some changes, some slight changes. So the actual overall coverage of the rubber is basically the same on both shoes. But the outsole on the Novablast 4 does seem better. Just seems a little bit more grippy. Just feels like there's a little bit more rubber on there, and is an improvement on the Novablast 3. Novablast 3 outsole got quite a bit of flack for being a little bit bad on wet conditions. Not great grip on it, and Asics released the Novablast 3 TR, which had a trail rubber outsole on it as well, which I actually used more because the outsole grip was better, and I used that a bit more for public footpaths and things like that. So I think there is an improvement on the outsole rubber on the Novablast 4 as well. Okay, so my verdict on these two shoes, pretty easy. I'm not a big fan of the Novablast 3, just don't think it really does a lot. It's fine, it's a workhorse, it ticks the boxes, but I don't think it's worth the price, and I don't think it's a great shoe for what you want to get from the Novablast. The Novablast 4 has some great updates to it. I think it's a really nice step in the right direction. I think it takes learnings from the Superblast, which is a fantastic shoe, versatile shoe, and now I think it's a really nice option if you're looking for a great, slightly versatile daily shoe that isn't really expensive like some shoes out there like the Superblast is. So I definitely go for the Asics Novablast 4 out of these two, and to be honest, even if you could get the Novablast 3 considerably cheaper because it's older, I still wouldn't get it because it's not the shoe that I want from a Novablast, and I never use this shoe for anything. Novablast 4 I would buy. I think it's a good option now. I think there's still better shoes out there. I think the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is still a better versatile option, but I do think the Novablast is probably a little bit better when you're going more towards that max cushioning side of things. If you want an easy day shoe, a longer run shoe that's maybe at slower efforts, there's just more cushioning in this, and as a result it feels more comfortable. But out of these two shoes I would definitely go for the Novablast 4. I think it's a vast improvement on the 3.
So verdict then, and for me the Novablast 4 is a clear improvement on the Novablast 3. The midsole tweaks are a net positive, bringing some additional immediacy and response. As a result, I think this shoe, now the 4, has much more versatility without sacrificing too much of the soft cushion protection that people seem to love in the past Novablasts. To enjoy either of these shoes, you're still going to have to get on with oversized maximal shoes that offer a softer edge. Overall, I still find them are both a bit clomping and canoe-like, and I generally like shoes that are more compact and precise. Now, if you already own the Novablast 3, I wouldn't be in a hurry to upgrade to the 4, and if you can find the Novablast 3 for under £100, I'd probably still choose those over the 4 as well. Otherwise, if you're talking about at full price, if you're new to the Novablast game, I'd recommend getting the Novablast 4 over the 3. I think is just a bit more snappy. If you've got a bit more to spend, I think you can get the same cushion benefits from alternatives like the Brooks Ghost Max or the On Cloud Eclipse and the New Balance 1080 V13, but without having to lace up such a big beast of a shoe. And for me, really, the Saucony Ride 17 are a much better balanced shoe that come in at the same price.
That's it from us on this Versus. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell, and check out the channel for all the other videos we've got coming out at the moment. If you go to the caption below, you can also find a link to our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.